Before we begin, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And if you love stories about justice and karma, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. I was standing near the champagne fountain when I heard Eleanor Hartwell's laugh slice through the string quartet. Sharp, deliberate, meant to be heard. "Oh God, there's Marcus," she said to her circle of friends, "still playing store with his little soap thing? I'm 52 years old. I've been making handcrafted botanical soaps for 7 years. My farmer's market stall barely covers rent most months." Her husband Victor raised his glass. "I bought one once, used it to wash the dog." The laughter that followed felt like knives. Eleanor's voice grew louder, performing now. "Marcus, honey, when are you going to get a real job? Our housekeeper makes more than you do." Every head within 20 feet turned toward me. The music seemed to pause. 200 people in black tie attire, and I was the punchline. I smiled, nodded, said absolutely nothing. But inside, something cold and sharp crystallized in my chest, a quiet vow forming behind clenched teeth. As I walked toward the exit, I heard Victor on his phone, voice urgent and panicked. "I don't care what it takes. We need that money by Monday." My daughter Lily called at 11 that night. Her voice was shaking. "Dad, there's a video." Someone had filmed Eleanor's performance, edited it with mocking captions and laughing emojis. It was spreading through every high society group chat in Charleston like wildfire. Poor Marcus and his bubble business. Smiley face. By morning, my phone was buzzing. 3 wholesale clients, small boutiques trying to look upscale, sent identical emails. They were canceling contracts. They couldn't be associated with that soap guy from the video. I sat in my workshop, surrounded by curing racks of lavender and eucalyptus bars, and did the math. Without those contracts, I had maybe 2 months before I'd have to close. My hands smelled like shea butter and failure. But here's what they didn't know. What nobody except my accountant knew. I'd been doing something else for 7 years. Something I'd never mentioned at dinner parties or posted on social media. I opened my laptop to a dashboard Eleanor's circle had never seen. Bennett Strategic Consulting. Q4 revenue, $8.4 million. If you're enjoying this so far, smash that like button. Trust me, this story gets wild. The soap business was real. It was also a front. When I left corporate data analytics at 45 after a heart attack scared me straight, I didn't just find myself making soap. I took my severance, my 401k, and 20 years of Fortune 500 expertise, and I built something invisible. Bennett Strategic Consulting. Boutique data analysis for mid-sized companies that couldn't afford McKinsey but desperately needed someone who understood their numbers. I ran it from my workshop laptop between soap batches. No office, no employees, no social media presence. Just me, complex financial models, and clients who paid $15,000 to $50,000 per project. The soap, that was my therapy, my identity, the thing that let me talk to real people at farmers markets instead of corporate sharks. Eleanor and her friends thought I was pathetic. They had no idea I grossed more annually than most of them combined. I just didn't spend it on Italian sports cars or waterfront mansions. After my heart attack, I'd learned something crucial. The moment you flash success, people want pieces of it. Investors, partners, friends who suddenly remember you exist. I wanted peace, not performance. But now, watching that video replay for the 100th time, I realized something else. Maybe it was time they learned exactly who they were laughing at. I didn't respond to the video, didn't defend myself, didn't post clarifications or explanations. I let them think they'd won. Lily begged me to set the record straight. I told her silence makes people curious, noise makes them bored. Meanwhile, I did 3 things quietly and methodically. First, I documented everything. Screenshots of the video, every mocking comment, every cancellation email. I created a folder on my desktop titled Receipt Collection. Second, I reached out to old corporate contacts. Not to brag or complain, just to offer value. "Hey, been thinking about your supply chain inefficiencies. Coffee sometime?" Third, I doubled down on the soap business. New website with professional photography. I hired a marketing student for $500 a month to run social media. Better packaging, cleaner branding. The farmers market customers started noticing the upgrade. Sales ticked up 15% within 2 weeks. But I kept my consulting work completely invisible. No LinkedIn updates, no press releases, no announcements. Let Eleanor and her circle think I was scrambling. Let them believe their mockery had landed. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. Victor Hartwell's business partner needed a data consultant. The irony was delicious. His name was Preston Clark. He'd Googled Boutique Data Analytics Charleston and found Bennett Strategic Consulting ranked high. He had no idea who owned it. I showed up to his downtown office in my consulting uniform, navy suit, Italian leather shoes I saved for these meetings, the version of Marcus Bennett that Eleanor's world had never seen. Preston looked up from his desk, his face drained of color. Marcus, the soap guy? I smiled pleasantly. I preferred data strategist, but sure. He was flustered, trying to recover. I didn't know you did this kind of work. Most people don't notice what they're not looking for. I opened my laptop. Now, about your portfolio diversification problem. The meeting lasted 2 hours. I diagnosed 3 critical flaws in his risk assessment model that could have cost him millions by next quarter. By the end, he was sweating. How much for the full audit? $30,000. He didn't even blink. Done. As I packed up, he stopped me at the door. Marcus, about that video. What video? I said calmly. That night, Eleanor Hartwell called me directly for the first time in 7 years. Her voice was honey-coated condescension. Marcus, I heard you helped Preston with something. A consulting project? I didn't know you did that kind of thing. Comment below if you think Marcus should help them or let them crash. And don't forget to subscribe. Most people don't ask, I said simply. There was a pause. Then Eleanor's tone shifted, trying to sound casual. Victor and I are having a small dinner party next week, very intimate. I thought it might be nice if you came. Bury the hatchet, you know? I knew exactly what this was. Preston had talked. Now she was curious, assessing the threat. I'll check my calendar. Wonderful. Oh, and Marcus? That sharp laugh returned. Maybe skip the soap talk. Keep it professional. I accepted the invitation. But before I went, I did something I hadn't done in years. I ran a comprehensive financial background check on Victor Hartwell's companies. What I found made everything click into place. Hartwell Enterprises was hemorrhaging money. 3 failed commercial real estate deals in 18 months. A luxury car dealership that tanked spectacularly. Over-leveraged investments in a tech startup that just laid off 60% of its staff. On paper, they looked wealthy. Designer clothes, charity galas, the waterfront mansion. In reality, they were drowning in debt, held together by credit lines and reputation. The Tesla? Leased. The mansion? Second mortgage. Eleanor's wardrobe? Financed. They were one bad quarter from total collapse. And nobody in their circle knew because they were phenomenal at performing wealth. I printed everything, added it to my receipt collection folder. The dinner party was exactly what I expected. 12 people in expensive clothes, eating catered food, and pretending to care about each other's problems. I wore a simple blazer, brought a bottle of mid-range wine, played the part of harmless soap maker perfectly. Eleanor kept watching me throughout dinner, trying to figure out what Preston had seen. Victor barely acknowledged me until dessert. Then he pulled me aside into his study. All leather-bound books he'd never read, mahogany desk, oil paintings of ships. I'll be direct, Marcus. We're restructuring some assets. Need someone discreet who understands complex portfolios. Translation, we're in trouble and can't let our wealthy friends know. I let him talk for 20 minutes. Desperation made him reveal more than he should. Bad investments, angry creditors, banks asking uncomfortable questions. When he finished, I leaned back in the leather chair. You need approximately $2.3 million in liquidity within 90 days, or the banks start calling loans. His face went white. How did you? It's what I do, Victor. Can you help? Here's where it got interesting. I could help. Easily. I had the cash, I had the expertise. But I didn't say yes. I said, let me run some preliminary analyses. I'll be in touch. Because desperate people make mistakes, and I wanted to see exactly how desperate they'd become. As I left that night, Eleanor cornered me near the door. Victor thinks you're some kind of genius. Her smile was tight. I told him you're just a soap maker playing consultant. Don't get too comfortable, Marcus. I nodded politely, said nothing. That weekend, I did what I do every Saturday morning. Made soap. Lavender, charcoal, goat's milk, and honey. The process was meditative. Measure, melt, pour, cure. Every step deliberate and calm. Lily stopped by the workshop with coffee. Dad, why are you even considering helping them after what they did? I'm not helping them yet. I'm watching them. Watching what? I showed her the financial reports spread across my desk. Watching gravity work. Her eyes widened as she read. They're completely broke? Worse, they're pretending not to be. Here's what 7 years of quiet work had actually built. Bennett Strategic Consulting, $8.4 million annual revenue, 40% profit margin. Investment portfolio, $3.1 million in index funds and dividend stocks. Real estate, I owned my workshop outright, plus 2 rental properties generating passive income. Cash reserves, $890,000 liquid. Total net worth, approximately $12 million. I still drove a 2011 Toyota, still lived in a modest house, still sold soap for $8 a bar. Every Saturday. Eleanor's circle thought I was barely surviving. That was exactly what I wanted them to think. Drop a like if you're Team Marcus, and share this with someone who loves a good revenge story. Monday morning, Victor called. His voice was strained. Marcus, we need to meet. It's urgent. We met at a Starbucks, not his office. Bad sign. He looked like he hadn't slept. Expensive haircut couldn't hide the stress lines. One of our major investors pulled out. We need bridge financing immediately. How much? $1.5 million. Just for 90 days. We'll pay 12% interest. I sipped my coffee slowly. That's loan shark territory, Victor. I know, but banks are asking questions we can't answer right now. There it was, the full desperation. Why me? He swallowed hard. Because everyone else will want to know why. You're discreet. Translation, you're beneath us socially, so you won't gossip at the country club. I let the silence stretch uncomfortably. Then, I need complete financials. Everything. He hesitated, then nodded. That evening, Eleanor posted on Instagram a photo of her and Victor at some charity event, both smiling. Caption, some people are threatened by success. We keep winning anyway. Diamond shine. #blessed. I screenshotted it, added it to my folder. The cognitive dissonance was stunning. Publicly performing wealth while privately begging for loans. Within 48 hours, Victor sent me everything. Bank statements, investment portfolios, debt schedules, tax returns. It was worse than I thought. They weren't just over-leveraged. They were engaged in what charitably could be called creative accounting, and realistically looked like fraud. Phantom assets on balance sheets, inflated property valuations, loans disguised as consulting fees to avoid scrutiny. If the wrong auditor looked at this, Victor didn't just face bankruptcy, he faced criminal charges. I made copies of everything, backed them up on 3 separate drives, added them to my growing documentation. Then I called my attorney.
Hypothetically, I said carefully, if someone brought me into a financial situation that could implicate me in fraud, how do I protect myself? She was quiet for a moment. You document everything. You make clear in writing that you're advising against illegal activity. You maintain professional distance. What if I still want to help them? Then you're a better person than most, Marcus. I wasn't sure about that. The next morning, news broke across Charleston's business community. Hartwell Enterprises under SEC investigation for financial misrepresentation. The article was brutal, named Victor specifically, detailed irregularities in financial reporting, mentioned possible fraud charges. Their perfect facade was crumbling in real time. My phone stayed silent. Then came a text from Eleanor's sister Patricia. Marcus, please, Eleanor needs to talk to you. Will you meet her? 3 hours later, Eleanor sat across from me in my workshop. No makeup, hair in a messy ponytail. She looked 10 years older than at the gala. I suppose you're enjoying this, she said quietly. Not particularly. Victor might go to prison. I nodded. We'll lose everything. The house, the cars, our entire life. Probably. She looked at me then, really looked at me. Maybe for the first time ever. Why did you agree to meet? Because despite what you think, Eleanor, I'm not cruel. She broke. Right there, surrounded by soap molds and lavender bundles, she cried. Real tears, not performance. I'm sorry, she whispered. About the video, the gala, all of it. I was horrible. I waited. I was jealous, she admitted, voice cracking. You seemed genuinely happy, making soap, talking to people at that market. We're drowning in debt and appearances, and you were just content. It made me angry. That I hadn't expected. We need help, Marcus. Real help, not alone. Someone who can actually fix this mess before Victor goes to prison. Why would I do that? She met my eyes. Because you're better than we are. All right, pause here. Would you help them after that humiliation? Comment yes or no below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. The next part is insane.
Over the next week, I met with their lawyers, their accountants, and a very nervous Victor. I reviewed every document, every transaction, every skeleton in their financial closet. Then, I laid out what I could do. 1. Provide emergency bridge financing, $1.5 million to prevent immediate collapse. 2. Restructure their debt strategically, negotiating with creditors using my financial expertise and connections. 3. Serve as their financial consultant for the SEC, demonstrating they were actively working to correct problems. But I had terms. Non-negotiable terms. Complete financial transparency. I see everything, control everything for 18 months minimum. 15% equity in Hartwell Enterprises. If I save it, I own part of it. Public acknowledgement that I'm their lead financial consultant. Not hidden, not downplayed. They donate $50,000 to Charleston Small Business Foundation in my name. Victor balked at the equity, Eleanor at the public acknowledgement. I looked at them calmly. You humiliated me publicly. This is the price of private salvation. Eleanor's hands shook as she signed. Victor stared at the documents for a long time. Then, quietly asked, How do you even have this kind of money? From making soap? I don't, I said simply. They both looked confused. I turned my laptop around, showing them the Bennett Strategic Consulting dashboard. Client list, revenue streams, investment portfolio, everything. Eleanor's mouth fell open. You've been this whole time? 7 years. But why hide it? Why let everyone think you were struggling? Because after my heart attack at 45, I learned something crucial. Real wealth
isn't about impressing people at galas. It's about building something sustainable while everyone's looking the other way. Victor stared at the numbers like they were written in a foreign language. You're worth more than I am. I'm worth more than most people in your social circle. But I drive a Toyota and sell soap on Saturdays because that's what makes me happy. Eleanor looked like she'd been slapped. The video? We mocked you for being poor. You mocked what you could see. You never asked about what you couldn't. That night, word spread through Charleston's business community like wildfire. Marcus Bennett, the soap guy, was the financial consultant brought in to save Hartwell Enterprises. The man they'd laughed at was now their only lifeline. The irony was poetic. The response on social media was immediate and divided. Eleanor's old circle was savage. How humiliating that she had to hire the soap man. But a different group emerged. Younger entrepreneurs, small business owners, people who'd been at that farmer's market. Wait, the soap guy is actually a multi-millionaire consultant? That's legendary. Then Preston Clark posted something that changed everything. 6 months ago, I laughed at Marcus Bennett's soap business at a charity event. Last week, his analysis saved me from a catastrophic investment. I was wrong. Success isn't loud, it's competent. My apologies, Marcus. 47,000 likes in 6 hours. Suddenly, my consulting website crashed from traffic. My email flooded with requests. 3 major news outlets wanted interviews. The soap business? Sales tripled overnight. People wanted to buy soap from a millionaire who still worked farmers markets. Eleanor texted me, I'm happy for you, truly, and I'm sorry, again. But not everyone was happy. Victor's business partner, Trevor, the one actually responsible for most of the fraud, sent a threatening email. You're trying to steal our company, Bennett. This won't end well for you. He had no idea I'd already copied every incriminating document he'd ever signed. If you're loving this story, hit that share button. Let's get this to 10K likes, and comment where you're watching from. Trevor Lansing had been Victor's partner for 15 years. Turns out, he was also the architect of their creative accounting. He wanted me gone, started a whisper campaign through their social circle. Marcus is taking advantage of desperate people, using insider information. He's not even qualified. Some of Eleanor's old friends joined in. They couldn't handle the narrative flip. The person they'd mocked now held all the power. But here's the thing about having documentation. Receipts are louder than rumors. I didn't argue with anyone, didn't defend myself. I just published. Not the confidential financials, that would be unethical and illegal. But I published Preston's testimonial on my website. I published a timeline of Bennett Strategic Consulting's 7-year growth. I published redacted client testimonials with permission. I let my work speak for itself. Meanwhile, the SEC investigation concluded. Trevor faced criminal fraud charges. He'd been creating fake companies, cooking books, and embezzling millions. Victor knew some of it, not all. He faced civil penalties, but avoided prison because he cooperated. Eleanor, she'd been completely in the dark. Her only crime was living beyond their means and performing wealth they didn't have. With Trevor out and the fraud exposed, I could finally restructure legitimately. We sold the mansion, downsized to a reasonable home, liquidated the luxury cars, cut expenses to reality. It was brutal for them, humiliating, necessary. 6 months after signing those documents, Hartwell Enterprises posted its first profitable quarter in 3 years. Without the fraud, without the bloat, the company was actually viable. Victor turned out to be decent at his actual job when he wasn't trying to impress people. Eleanor discovered she had a genuine talent for client relations when she stopped performing and started being real. My 15% equity stake started meaning something. But the real transformation was personal. Eleanor began volunteering at the small business foundation she'd been forced to donate to. She started mentoring young entrepreneurs, teaching them what not to do. Victor joined Debtors Anonymous, started speaking honestly about financial stress and the pressure of appearances. They were rebuilding, not their image, their integrity. One Saturday morning, Eleanor showed up at my farmer's market stall. "Can I buy soap?" she asked quietly. "Sure, $8. She handed me a 20. "Keep the change. Consider it back payment for being awful." I laughed. First genuine laugh I'd had around her in 7 years. She smiled too. Then asked, "Marcus, can I ask you something? Why did you really help us? You could have watched us burn."
I handed a customer their bag of charcoal soap, then turned back to Eleanor. "You want the noble answer or the honest one?" "Honest." "Part of me wanted to watch you squirm. I'm human. The humiliation hurt." She nodded. "And the other part?" "The other part remembered being 45 years old in a hospital bed after my heart attack, wondering if I'd see Lily graduate college, wondering if I'd wasted my entire life chasing things that didn't actually matter." I wrapped another bar of soap for a customer before continuing. "You mocked my soap business, but that business saved my life. Not financially, emotionally. It reminded me that making things with your hands, talking to real people at a farmer's market, building something small and honest, that's wealth too." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "I couldn't let you lose everything because you were trapped in the same performance I'd escaped. You were drowning in appearances. I just threw you a rope." "That's incredibly kind, Marcus." "Don't confuse mercy with strategy, Eleanor. I also made $200,000 in consulting fees and own 15% of your company." She laughed through the tears. Real laughter this time. "That evening, I got an email from a Charleston magazine. Would you be interested in a profile? Second Acts, the Soap Maker Millionaire." The article ran 3 months later. "The Hidden Millionaire: How Marcus Bennett Built a Secret Empire While Everyone Was Laughing." It was fair, balanced, honest. Didn't paint me as a saint or them as villains. Just humans making mistakes and course corrections. The writer focused on the lesson. Real success doesn't need an audience. My phone exploded again. Interview requests, speaking invitations, even a book deal offer. I declined most of it. Accepted a few speaking gigs at small business conferences. My message was simple and consistent. Build something you'd be proud of even if no one ever knew about it. The soap business now had a 6-week waiting list. I hired 2 employees from the small business foundation Eleanor volunteered at. Bennett Strategic Consulting opened a second office. I hired my first full-time analyst, a young woman who reminded me of myself at 30, brilliant but burned out from corporate life. My net worth crossed $15 million. I still drove the Toyota. One afternoon, Lily called. "Dad, Eleanor and Victor want to come to my wedding? Is that okay?" I thought about it. "It's your day, sweetheart. If you want them there, I'm fine with it." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." At the wedding reception, Victor approached me quietly. "Marcus, I never properly thanked you for not destroying us when you could have." Guys, we're almost at the end. If this story gave you chills, please hit subscribe and comment what you think Marcus should say. I looked at Victor, really looked at him. He'd lost weight. The stress lines around his eyes had softened. He looked lighter somehow. "You paid my consulting fees, Victor. We're square." "No," he said firmly. "I mean for not destroying us when you had every reason to. You showed mercy when we showed you cruelty." I considered that. "I didn't save you, Victor.
I stopped you from drowning while you learned to swim. There's a difference." He nodded slowly. "Eleanor and I are different people now, better people. We're actually happy, not performing happiness, actually feeling it." "That's good. It's because of you." "No," I corrected gently. "It's because you finally stopped lying to yourselves." As the reception wound down, Preston Clark pulled me aside. "Marcus, I have a business proposition. Interested in expanding Bennett Strategic?" He wanted to invest, scale the consulting business. He'd fund expansion while I kept 60% ownership. It was a good offer, maybe a great one. But I hesitated. "Why the pause?" he asked. "Because scaling means employees, overhead, pressure, the things I escaped." "Or," he said, "it means you hire people like you were 7 years ago. Give them second chances. Build something sustainable and ethical." That landed differently. We shook hands. Details would follow, but the core was solid. 2 years after the gala humiliation, everything had changed. Hartwell Enterprises was profitable and debt-free. Victor ran a leaner, more honest operation. They'd rebuilt their reputation through competence instead of appearances. Eleanor had become a vocal advocate for small business support and financial transparency. She spoke at conferences about her own mistakes. People respected her honesty. Preston and I had grown Bennett Strategic Consulting into a $15 million a year operation with offices in 3 cities. We'd hired 12 people, all of them burned-out corporate refugees looking for something more meaningful. My soap business still operated every Saturday at the farmer's market. I wouldn't stop for anything. It kept me grounded. My net worth had grown to $18 million. I still drove the 2011 Toyota. Lily joked that I was the world's cheapest millionaire. That year's Riverside Charity Gala, the same event where it all started, invited me as keynote speaker. Topic: The Wealth You Don't See. Eleanor was asked to introduce me. She took the microphone, and the room went quiet. Everyone remembered what happened 2 years ago. 2 years ago, she began, voice steady, I publicly marked Marcus Bennett. I called his work a hobby. I laughed at his business. I was cruel because I was insecure and performing a version of success that was killing me. The silence was absolute. Eleanor continued, voice strong and clear. Marcus Bennett taught me that real success isn't performed for audiences. It's built quietly, with integrity, when nobody's watching. She saved my family, not because we deserved it, but because that's the kind of person he is. She stepped aside. I walked to the podium. 200 faces staring at me. Some of them had been here that night. Some had laughed. I began simply. Let me tell you about the most important business decision I ever made. It started with a heart attack and a bar of soap. I told the whole story. The corporate burnout, the health crisis at 45, the decision to build something small and meaningful, the hidden consulting business, the choice to stay invisible, and yes, the humiliation at this very gala 2 years ago. Eleanor thought she was mocking my failure. She was actually mocking my freedom. I talked about real wealth, not luxury cars or waterfront mansions, but time, purpose, and peace. When Eleanor's world collapsed, I had a choice, revenge or restoration. Revenge would have been easy, but it would have made me the same person I was at 45, bitter, stressed, dying inside. The room was completely still. So I chose restoration, not for her, for me. Because the person I want to be doesn't destroy people when they're already down. I paused, letting that breathe. But I also didn't do it for free. I charged full rates, took equity, made demands. Because dignity has terms.
As I left the stage, a young man approached me. Mid-20s, expensive suit, but his eyes were terrified. "Mr. Bennett, I just got laid off from my corporate job. I don't know what to do." I recognized that look. I'd worn it once. "What did you do?" "Data analysis, but everyone says AI is making us obsolete." "Wrong. Bad data analysis is being automated. Good analysis is more valuable than ever." His eyes lit up slightly. "Here's what I want you to do. Take 2 weeks. Don't panic. Don't rush into the first offer. Think about what you'd build if nobody was watching. What makes you forget to check your phone?" "Like what?" "I don't know. Maybe it's soap. Maybe it's something else entirely. But find the thing that feeds your soul, not just your bank account." He nodded slowly. "And email me in a month. I'm always looking for good analysts who understand that work should mean something." As he walked away, I felt it. The full circle. 7 years ago, I was him. Scared, lost, unsure. Someone, life maybe, gave me space to rebuild. Now, I got to pass it forward. Eleanor appeared beside me. "That was kind." "That was self-interest," I corrected. "Good analysts are hard to find." She smiled. "You can't help yourself, can you? Always pretending you're not as good as you are." Okay, we're at the finale. If this story moved you, smash that like button and share it with everyone. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. 3 months later, the young man, his name was James, sent me his business plan. A micro consulting firm focused on helping nonprofits understand their data. It was good, really good. I invested $50,000 as seed capital, not a loan, equity. Within a year, James hired 3 people. Within 2, he'd grown it to a sustainable business that actually mattered. He sent me a text. "You changed my life." I replied, "No, I just didn't get in your way." Eleanor's volunteering at the Small Business Foundation became a permanent board position. She helped dozens of entrepreneurs avoid the mistakes she'd made. Victor and Eleanor's marriage didn't just survive, it strengthened. Without the performance, without the debt, they actually liked each other again. Preston and I expanded Bennett Strategic into financial literacy education for small businesses. Free courses, no strings attached. The soap business? Still my favorite part of every week. Saturday mornings at the market, talking to customers, making something real with my hands. My net worth kept growing quietly. 18 million became 20, then 23. I finally upgraded the Toyota to a slightly newer Toyota. Lily joked that I was impossible to buy gifts for because I already had everything I wanted. She was right. One Saturday morning, Eleanor showed up at my market stall with coffee. "Thought you might need this," she said. We stood there in companionable silence, watching people browse handmade soaps. "Do you ever regret it?" Eleanor asked quietly. "Helping us instead of letting us crash?" I thought about that, really thought about it. "No," I said finally, "but not for the reasons you think." "What do you mean?" "I didn't help you to be noble. I helped you because I refuse to become what I hate. Cruelty, revenge, destruction, that's easy. Any wounded person can burn bridges." I handed a customer their bag, then continued. "Building something better than your pain? That takes actual strength." Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I tell that story when I mentor now, about how you chose restoration over revenge. People need to hear it." "Tell them the whole truth," I said. "I didn't do it for free. I charged full price, took equity, made demands. Mercy doesn't mean being a doormat." She laughed. "Trust me, I tell them that part too." Later that evening, I sat in my workshop. The smell of lavender and eucalyptus filled the air. Soap molds lined the shelves. My laptop showed consulting projects in progress. 2 worlds, both real, both mine. My phone buzzed. "James, just closed my biggest client. Thank you for believing in me." I smiled. Typed back, "Thank yourself. You did the work." This, I thought, this is what wealth actually looks like. Not the number in my bank account. The lives touched,
the kindness multiplied. 5 years after that gala, I gave another speech, smaller venue this time, a college entrepreneurship class. They asked the question everyone asks: how did you build your success? I told them the truth. I had a heart attack that forced me to confront what actually mattered. I built a business nobody knew about because I wanted peace, not performance. I got publicly humiliated, and instead of seeking revenge, I chose strategic patience. And when the people who mocked me needed help, I helped them, but on my terms. A student raised her hand. But didn't you want revenge? Every single day at first, I admitted. But here's what I learned. Revenge is about the past. Building something undeniable is about the future. Another student: would you do it all again the same way? I thought about Eleanor volunteering, Victor's honesty, James's growing business, Preston's partnership, the dozens of lives touched by choosing construction over destruction. Yes, I said, because the opposite of cruelty isn't weakness. It's strength with boundaries, mercy with terms, building something so solid that the people who doubted you can't look away, and then choosing not to destroy them when they finally see you. I looked at those young faces. That's not revenge. That's freedom. So here's my question for you. If you were Marcus, what would you have done? Helped them or let them crash? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this story taught you something about success, dignity, or revenge, hit that subscribe button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Your support means everything. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.